Welcome to Who's Wrong. If you're into messy stories, blurred morals, and moments that make you stop and ask, wait, who's actually wrong here? You're in the right place. Hit subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you never miss the next story. Now let's get into it. I blacklisted my best friend from my wedding for calling my fiancé a backup plan. Am I the jerk? So here's what happened, and I still don't know how to feel about it. My wedding is like 6 months away and everything was going perfectly. I thought. My best friend, Clara, we've been inseparable since kindergarten. Like, literally doing everything together. She was supposed to be my maid of honor. Key word was, we were at a bachelorette party for another friend, not even mine, just a casual night out. Everyone had a few drinks, loosened up a bit. The conversation naturally drifted to my wedding. We were gushing about dresses, cake flavors, all that fun stuff. I was showing off pictures of my fiancé, Mark. He's truly the love of my life. Seriously, I never thought I'd find someone who just gets me like he does. Anyway, Clara, she's usually super supportive. Like she's always been my biggest cheerleader. But that night, something shifted. Someone, I don't even remember who, made a joke about how I used to talk about my dream guy, and Mark wasn't exactly. That, just a silly comment, something you laugh off. But Clara, she didn't laugh it off. She took it and ran with it. She goes, and I swear to God, I still hear her voice. Oh, Mark's great. He's just, her backup plan. The whole table went silent. You could literally hear a pin drop. My heart just absolutely stopped. I looked at her, thinking she was going to laugh or say she was kidding or something. But nope. Her face was totally serious, like she believed it. I asked her, "What did you just say?" My voice was so quiet, I barely recognized it as my own. She just shrugged. "Come on, it's true. You always said you wanted someone taller and with a more adventurous job. Mark's dependable." Dependable, like he was a used car. My fiancé, the man I'm supposed to spend the rest of my life with, described as dependable, like it's a consolation prize. I felt like I'd been punched in the gut. All that joy, all that excitement for my wedding, it just deflated. Right there. In front of all our friends. I stood up, shaking. I couldn't even look at her. I just said, "I'm leaving." And I walked out. I just left the party. Didn't say goodbye to anyone else. Just needed to get out of there. I tried to process it all weekend. I mean my best friend. The one who knows all my secrets. The one who knows how much Mark means to me. She really thought so little of our relationship that she'd call him a backup plan. And the worst part, she didn't even apologize properly. She texted me later something like, "Look, I was just being honest. You loved X, Y, and Z about your exes, and Mark isn't that. It wasn't meant to be mean." Honest? Seriously. There's a difference between honesty and just being cruel. I called her. I tried to explain how much that hurt, how it undermined my entire relationship in front of people, and how it made me question everything she ever said about Mark. She just kept backtracking, saying I was overreacting, that it was a joke. But her tone wasn't apologetic. It was defensive. She still thinks she was just being real. So I did it. I told her she wasn't going to be my maid of honor. And then I told her she wasn't invited to the wedding at all. It was one of the hardest things I've ever done. We've been friends for like 20 years. But how can I have someone stand by me on the most important day of my life when they think my husband is just a consolation prize? Now all our mutual friends are split. Some say I'm being too sensitive, that she was just joking, probably had too much to drink. Others are on my side, saying it was a totally out-of-line comment. But the biggest thing is, Mark doesn't know about this. I haven't told him. How could I? What if he starts thinking she's right? What if he starts questioning our relationship because of some stupid, drunken comment? I can't put that thought in his head. I just can't. So yeah, she's out. And I'm here, wondering if I just blew up a lifelong friendship over something that maybe I should have just ignored. But it felt so personal, so cutting. Was this betrayal or just brutal honesty? Commenter 1 said, No way op, you did the right thing, you're not wrong here. Commenter 2 said, why didn't you just talk to her first? Sounds like a joke taken out of context. Commenter 3 said, I'd cut them off too, but why hide it from your fiancé? And real quick, make sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell for more videos. Now let's keep going. Story number 2, I secretly tested my sister's boyfriend after she disappeared. Who's actually wrong here? Okay, I really need some outside opinions on this one because I'm spiraling. My sister, Chloe, she just disappeared. It's not like Chloe to just vanish. She's always been super communicative, especially with me. We're really close. So when I hadn't heard from her in 3 days and she wasn't responding to calls or texts, I started to freak out. Her boyfriend, Ryan, was the last one to see her. He said they had a fight and she stormed out. Happened often enough, honestly. They had a really volatile relationship. 1 minute they were all over each other, the next they were screaming. But she always came back or at least texted me to vent. This was different. Ryan seemed worried, but also a little too calm. He kept saying she just needed space, she'd turn up. But I had this gut feeling. Like a cold dread in my stomach. Something felt really, really wrong. I went to her apartment. Ryan was there playing video games, casual, and Chloe's car was still in the driveway. Her phone was off. That's when the alarm bells really started ringing. Chloe never turns off her phone. I asked Ryan if I could go into her bedroom just to see if she left a note or anything. He hesitated but then said, yeah, whatever, like he didn't care. That made me even more suspicious. Her room was tidy, too tidy for Chloe. She's usually a mess, clothes everywhere. It was like someone had cleaned it, his cleaning. Or someone else. I didn't find anything. No note, nothing obviously missing. But I noticed her favorite necklace, the one I gave her for her 21st birthday, was on her nightstand. She never takes that off. Never. Not even to shower. That's when I decided I needed to test Ryan. I know it sounds crazy, like something from a movie, but I had to know. My sister was missing, and the person last with her was acting weird. I convinced Ryan to come to my place for dinner a couple of nights later to keep each other company. He agreed, surprisingly easily. He even brought a bottle of wine. I laid out her necklace on my coffee table, right where he'd see it if he was paying any attention. I didn't say anything, just set it there casually when he was in the bathroom. He came back, sat down, started talking about. I don't even remember what, some sports game, and he didn't even flinch. He looked right at that necklace, the one my sister wore every single day, her most prized possession, and didn't say a word. Didn't ask why I had it, didn't react at all, as if it wasn't even there. It was chilling. It literally sent shivers down my spine. Then I ramped it up. I started telling him about Chloe's secret savings account, which, by the way, doesn't exist. I made it up on the spot. I said, you know, all that money she saved up for her big trip, for when she was finally going to leave you for good. I watched his face. For the first time he flinched, just a tiny flicker in his eyes. He denied it, of course, said he didn't know anything about any trip or savings. But that little flicker, that moment of surprise, it told me everything. He was thinking, he was calculating. I ended dinner quickly after that. Said I wasn't feeling well. I couldn't stand to be in the same room as him. Now I've gone to the police. I told them everything. About her sudden disappearance, about Ryan's weird behavior, about my tests, the necklace, the made-up savings account. They listened, but they seemed skeptical about the testing part, like I was being dramatic. But what else was I supposed to do? My sister is gone. Every fiber of my being is screaming that Ryan knows more than he's letting on. And I felt like if I didn't push, if I didn't try to get a reaction, I wouldn't have anything to give the police. Part of me feels like I shouldn't have done that, like I manipulated him. But the other part of me, the part that's terrified for Chloe, feels like it was the only way. Did she disappear voluntarily, or was she silenced? Commenter 1 said, honestly, I'd do the same for my sister. Commenter 2 said, you shouldn't have crossed that line. This isn't CSI. Commenter 3 said, I'm scared for her now. Something feels very off. I refuse to take my brother off life support, even though he said he didn't want this. Am I wrong? Here's the thing. My brother Ethan, he's gone, but not really, not yet, not for me. A few weeks ago, there was this horrific car accident. Drunk driver. Ethan was hit head-on. They pulled him out of the wreckage barely. He's been in a coma ever since, on life support, machines breathing for him, a ventilator keeping his heart going. The doctors have been giving us the talk. You know, the grim probabilities, the quality of life discussions. They basically said there's no chance of recovery, no brain activity, just gone. But here's the kicker. Ethan always said he never wanted to be kept alive by machines. He was super clear about it. We had these morbid conversations growing up, typical dark humor stuff. He'd say, if I'm ever a vegetable, just pull the plug, don't let me linger. He even had an advance directive, a living will, explicitly stating no extraordinary measures. And I know this, I know what he wanted. It's written down, signed, everything. He trusted me to make that call. I was his medical proxy, but I just can't. Every time they talk about end-of-life care or withdrawing support, my chest tightens. My throat constricts. I look at him there, lying so still, but he looks peaceful, like he's just sleeping. And I can't imagine a world where he's not in it at all. Mom and Dad, they're devastated, obviously. But they're also respecting his wishes. They keep reminding me, this is what Ethan wanted. We have to honor it. They're so calm about it, strangely. Or maybe it's just a different kind of grief. My girlfriend, Sarah, she's been a rock. She's heard me agonizing over this for days. She says, it's okay to grieve. It's okay to want him here, but you made a promise to him. A promise? But what kind of promise is it when keeping it means never seeing him again? Even like this, I visit him every day. I sit by his bed. I talk to him, even though I know he can't hear me. I tell him about my day. I tell him jokes. I hold his hand, and it's warm. The nurses say his reflexes are still there, that he's responsive to touch. Is that just a cruel trick of the body? Or is it a sign? A tiny flicker of hope that maybe, just maybe, they're wrong. The doctors are pushing for a decision. They say it's not fair to keep him in this state indefinitely. Financially, emotionally, physically for me and my parents. They're talking about taking him off the vent next week if I don't agree. And I can't say the words. I can't tell them to do it. Everyone tells me it's selfish. To keep him hooked up, to ignore his wishes, just because I can't bear the thought of losing him. Is it selfish? I don't know. I just feel like if I make that call, it's like I'm killing him, my own brother. I lie awake at night, picturing the machines being turned off, imagining the silence, knowing that when I go to visit him, he won't be there. And I can't breathe. I literally can't breathe. Maybe I'm just clinging to a ghost. Maybe it's not fair to him. Maybe I'm just torturing myself. But the alternative, the finality, it's unbearable. And I'm the only one who feels this way. They all look at me like I'm crazy, like I'm not listening to reason. I'm supposed to give them an answer tomorrow, and I still don't have one. I know what he wanted. But I just can't bring myself to do it. Was this love or a refusal to let go? Commenter 1 said, that was your call to make. I don't think you were wrong. Commenter 2 said, you went against his will. That's not okay, no matter how hard it is. Commenter 3 said, I don't know what I'd do in your shoes. I feel sick just thinking about it. I reported my neighbor for child neglect, but I think I got it all wrong. Who's wrong? Okay, this is going to sound absolutely terrible, but I don't know what else to do. I think I made a huge, monumental mistake, and now I'm living with the guilt. So, my new neighbors moved in a few months ago. A single mom, Sarah, and her little boy, Leo, who's maybe 5 or 6. She seemed a bit overwhelmed from the start, always rushing, looking tired. I tried to be friendly, offered to help with boxes, but she was kind of guarded. I've got a decent view into her backyard from my kitchen window. I never actively try to snoop, but things happen sometimes. And I started noticing stuff. Like Leo would be outside playing alone, sometimes for what felt like hours. And not just like backyard playing. This kid would be out there in shorts when it was chilly or without a hat in the blazing sun. And he'd always seem to be eating crackers or something basic, never a proper meal. Then there were the noise levels. Late at night, sometimes I'd hear Leo crying really hard, and it would go on for a while. Not just a quick cry, but like a sustained, almost desperate wailing. And I wouldn't hear Sarah's voice, not really, just the crying. One day I was out gardening, and Leo wandered over to the fence. He looked really thin. His clothes were kind of worn, and he had a bruise on his arm. Not a big one, but enough to catch my eye, and he asked me for a snack. "My tummy is rumbling," he said. My heart just broke. That was it for me. All these little things started piling up in my head. The crying, the being alone, the thinness, the bruise, asking for food. My brain connected all the dots, and it screamed neglect. I wrestled with it for days. I hated the idea of getting involved, being that neighbor. But what if I didn't, and something truly terrible happened? My conscience wouldn't let me rest, so I made the call, an anonymous report to Child Protective Services. I relayed everything I'd seen, everything I'd heard. I felt awful, but also like it was the right thing to do. I thought I was protecting a child. CPS came out. I saw their car. Sarah looked absolutely distraught. I watched from my window as she was talking to them, gesturing, looking so upset. Little Leo was clinging to her leg, looking terrified. And then, a few days later, I saw something else. My other neighbor, an older woman named Mrs. Henderson, she came over to my fence. She looked pretty annoyed. She said, "Did you know that Sarah's little boy, Leo, has a severe form of autism?" My blood ran cold. I just stared at her. "Yeah," she continued, "and sometimes he has meltdowns that sound really bad, but she's always right there with him. He's also a very picky eater because of his sensory issues. He loves to just eat crackers and sometimes won't eat anything else for days. And the bruises. He falls a lot. He has really poor coordination because of his condition." Mrs. Henderson also mentioned that Sarah works 2 jobs, cleaning houses, so she's often exhausted. And sometimes Leo insists on being outside alone because he finds it calming for his sensory-seeking behavior. She said a therapist actually recommended it sometimes. That's why he was out in odd weather. That's why he'd be out for a while. The secret about the bruise. He fell off his scooter a few days before I called. My heart sank. Mrs. Henderson was like, "She's doing her best, bless her heart. It's hard with special needs, especially when you're on your own." I felt completely gutted. Every single sign I saw, every single thing I reported. It all had a completely innocent, heartbreaking explanation. I didn't see neglect. I saw a struggling mother doing her best with a child who has special needs, and I misinterpreted everything through my own lens. Now Sarah looks at me differently, like she knows. She hasn't said anything, but her eyes, they're full of hurt. And I can't blame her. I might have just ruined her life, got her child investigated, made her feel like a terrible parent, all because I jumped to conclusions. What protects a child more, vigilance or understanding? Commenter 1 said, "You did what any concerned person should do." Commenter 2 said, "I feel like I would have made the same mistake tbh." Commenter 3 said, "This is why people mind their business. You can't uncall CPS." My husband refused to delete his late wife's voicemails, so I did it for him. Am I the jerk? Okay, I know this is going to sound bad, and I'm bracing myself for it, but I did something, and now I'm wondering if I totally messed up or if I was justified. My husband David lost his first wife, Rebecca, 5 years ago. It was a tragic accident. I met David about 2 years after that, and we've been married for a year now. I love him to bits. He's amazing. But Rebecca, she was always there. Not like a picture on the mantle and loving stories, more like a constant presence in our everyday lives. He still had all her voicemails on his phone, all of them, saved. From when they were dating, from their first year of marriage, just her mundane messages. "Hey, picking up milk, love you," or "Call me back when you get this." And every few months, I'd catch him listening to them. Late at night, sometimes. Or just in the car, I'd hear her voice. It was always disorienting, like a ghostly echo in our shared life. I tried to be understanding. I know grief is a long process. I really do. But it felt like he was holding onto a piece of her that was actively keeping him from fully being present with me. When we got engaged, I gently brought it up. "David," I said, "do you think maybe it's time to let go of some of the voicemails? I know she was important, but we're starting our own life now." He just got really quiet, and then he said, "I can't, not yet. It's the only way I can hear her voice sometimes." I backed off. I didn't want to push it. I thought maybe when we moved into our new house together or after the wedding, he'd naturally let go. He didn't. Our anniversary came and went. Still there, Christmas, still there. Every time I heard her voice, a little piece of me felt invisible, like I was living in her shadow. I knew it wasn't rational, but that's how it felt. Like I was competing with a ghost, and the ghost was winning. One day, I was helping David clean out his old phone to trade it in for a newer model. He was busy in the garage, and he asked me to transfer his contacts and photos. I was scrolling through his phone, doing what he asked, and there they were, the voicemails. A long list of them under Rebecca, not just a few, but dozens, all saved. And my finger just hovered over the delete all option. A thought flashed through my mind. If they're on his old phone, he probably has them backed up somewhere else, right? I told myself that. It was a lie. I had no idea if he did or not. I just wanted them gone. My heart was pounding. My hands were shaking. I closed my eyes, took a deep breath, and just hit delete. All of them. Gone. Forever. I didn't tell him. He got his new phone. He never mentioned the voicemails. For a few weeks I thought, okay, maybe he's moving on. Maybe he'd forgotten about them. I felt a sense of relief, a terrible, guilty relief. Then, about a month later, he was telling me a story about something Rebecca had said. He paused and said, "You know what? I still have that voicemail. I'll play it for you." He went to his phone and he searched and searched, and then his face just crumpled. He looked so utterly devastated. Like I had just shattered something irreplaceable. And his face, it wasn't anger. It was pure, raw grief. The kind I hadn't seen since I first met him, when the wounds were fresh. He didn't say anything. He just put his phone down and walked away. I heard him go into the other room. He didn't come back to me for hours. I knew. He knew they were gone. And he knew I was the only one who could have done it. Now there's this weird tension in the house. This unspoken thing. Sometimes he looks at me with this faraway sadness, and I feel like the most horrible person on earth. I ruined his memory. I stripped him of something precious. But at the same time, I feel like I needed to do it for us, for our marriage. I felt like I was fighting for my place in his life. I just couldn't stand her voice anymore. Was this insecurity or emotional sabotage? Commenter 1 said, "You crossed a huge line. Those voicemails weren't yours." Commenter 2 said, "I get it. I'd feel like a ghost in my own marriage too." Commenter 3 said, "He shouldn't have been clinging to her that way." It's not fair to you either. I didn't tell my best friend her boyfriend cheated because I'm the one he cheated with who's actually wrong here. This is going to be rough. Like, really, really rough. And I know it sounds terrible, but please just hear me out. My best friend Ella, she's been with her boyfriend Mark for about 2 years. They seemed pretty solid, like real relationship goals. We'd go on double dates, everything. I really truly considered him a friend too. And then, a few months ago, things got complicated. Mark and we were out with a group of friends. Ella was out of town visiting her family. We had a bit too much to drink. You know how these things go. One thing led to another. We ended up back at his place, alone, and we slept together. The morning after was a blur of panic and regret, the absolute worst feeling. We both agreed it was a huge mistake, a one-time thing. We swore we'd never tell anyone, especially not Ella. We swore. I felt sick to my stomach. This is my best friend, my ride or die, and I had just stabbed her in the back. It still makes me feel physically ill to think about it. For weeks, I couldn't look Ella in the eye. Every time she talked about Mark, about how much she loved him, about their future, I felt like I was going to throw up. The guilt was crushing me. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep properly. It was awful. I almost told her so many times. I'd write out the texts, then delete them. I'd practice what I would say, but then I'd think about her face. Her heartbroken face, and the thought of ruining her world and our friendship, it just paralyzed me. Mark and I avoided each other as much as possible. When we were in the same room, it was pure awkward tension. We'd exchange strained glances. It was like we were both holding our breath. Then, a few days ago, Ella called me. She was crying, hysterically crying. She found out Mark cheated. My heart stopped. My blood ran cold. I thought, oh my God, he told her. He actually told her. But then she said, he cheated with Sarah from his office. I froze. Sarah, he cheated again. Or was he using Sarah as a scapegoat? My mind raced 1,000,000 miles an hour. Ella was a mess. She was pouring her heart out to me, her best friend, asking me for advice, asking me how she could have been so blind. How could he do this to her? And I just sat there listening, nodding, offering comforting words, telling her what a scumbag he was. The words tasted like ash. I didn't tell her. I didn't say a word about my part in it. Why? Because she was already so broken. What would telling her at that moment accomplish? It would just break her twice. It would make me the villain instead of the supportive best friend. It would ruin everything. Part of me thought, he cheated on her with me first. This Sarah thing is just him being a repeat offender. It's not just my fault, which I know is a really pathetic way to rationalize it. Now Ella is furious at Mark. She's threatening to break up with him. She feels utterly betrayed. And I'm right there beside her, comforting her, validating her feelings. While knowing I contributed to her pain, I feel like a complete monster. I lied to my best friend. I let her believe a different story. I let her tear down Mark for something I was also involved in. I let her grieve over a betrayal that was amplified by my own actions. She's talking about how she could never trust him again, how she'll never trust anyone again. And I just sit there feeling like a hypocrite. I still haven't said anything, and I don't know if I ever will. I want to tell her the truth, but the fear of losing her, of seeing that hurt look directed at me, it's too much. When you're both betrayed, who deserves the truth? Commenter 1 said, this one actually broke me. You're both wrong. Commenter 2 said, I want to hate you, but I'd probably freeze up too. Commenter 3 said, he doesn't love either of you. You just didn't want to lose first. Make sure to subscribe and hit that notification bell so you never miss a new video from us. We'll see you in the next one.